going to make you, I mean, I hate it when people do that to me. So I'm going to give you guys a few seconds, and then what I'm going to do is switch over to my screen. So when screen sharing happens.
If you can.
If
not, I might need to give, have you got it?
Oh, this is gallery view. No, I'm going to shrink my, I did it before. What was that? There's 15 people in here. Oh my God. I'm surprised. I'm always surprised when people get up in the morning. Okay. All right, host disabled participant screen sharing. Okay.
Interesting.
So,
you want to send me what? Well, no, that doesn't work either. We apologize for technology issues.
This is our first class of the day.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can find. You sent all your stuff to.
This version, I had one that I sent, but just like everything else, I copied it over and did more things to it, so I wouldn't screw up my teacher one.
Would you want to send me then that newer one that you have? I'm putting my email down in chat.
Okay, cool. All right. Exit full screen. Then here. Can you guys see the screen now?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I know I'm yelling.
Yep.
No, I'm yelling because it's absolutely.
Good morning.
Because
Okay.
it's early here. It's 7 o'clock. So.
Oh, Lord. Okay, my heart goes out to you. Directions on how to create, view, or save a file. I'm not going to run a video. I'm just going to say that this digital presentation has a how-to on it. I try and make everything. I assume that people know nothing about Google Tools. So there's a video that comes along with this that's right here. You just get out of it now. There. So I know people know a lot already. A lot of you use Google Drive to organize all of your, it stores more than just your Google's information. Also, if you ever do a presentation, you have to tidy it up and make it look nice, or you're going to open it all up to a group full of professors and they're going to see that you're a hot mess. I never did this because I anticipated it happening. So it's kind of like letting people into your closet. So just an FYI. Also, this is so weird for me to talk, and so everything's going okay with the loss of people can hear me. Wow, this is so painless. Okay, so have you ever met somebody at an event that wanted to find out more information about what you do, but you didn't particularly want to give them your phone number? This is a great tool. A lot of teachers use this. It's Google Voice, and when you press on it, it'll ask you for your regular phone number, and normally it will give you another phone number that you can use that's kind of a pass-through. It will show up as a Google Voice number. It will record your messages. You can make phone calls on it, yada, yada, yada. Although I do have to say the quality of it is not as good as a cell phone. So it's just helpful. Sometimes if you live in a largely populated area, it'll tell you your area code is not available. It lies. So don't believe it, just keep looking. But, so that's a good tool. I've used it in the past. I should use it again now that I've given out my cell phone number to students. This is Google Drawings. So if you want to get on board with Google Drawings, you want to create your device, or you want to go ahead, and I could go into this and take you on a trip, but it's an article that you might want to look into. It's like a empty canvas. It's not as difficult as some other Illustrator or something along those lines. It's much more basic. And a lot of things that Google does is basic, but it does the job and it's free. So these are some things, and please tell me if I'm going too fast. these are some things that I use to help me create. So those of you who maybe wanted to create a digital portfolio. So one of the things that, I don't know if any of y'all are peers or anything, but if you've ever been at a peer meeting and you have somebody's discussion resume, or I call it a CV or portfolio or whatever, and you're discussing them in the circle and you're like, bunches of paper all over the room, people leave it there, and then everybody comes in the room and they're like, oh, I know so-and-so's under discussion, blah. So to alleviate that problem and not kill a tree, you can create a Google site that will allow you to showcase you digitally. And it's free and it's super duper easy to build. I mean, you could do one in half an hour once you get the hang of it. This is, for instance, this is a video on Google Sites right here. That's what I've added to everything. Another thing, when you go on YouTube and you look for tools, especially with Google tools, and you want to learn more about it on YouTube, use the newer ones that have the most views first, because the other ones that are older might include all of the different bells and whistles that they keep adding on to the tools. This is so let me show you an example. I was asked to create something for the youth, the one where the children of the known world learn things, and then they had an issue with maybe one-on-one contact, and they didn't want a teacher to perhaps have a private conversation with somebody who was underage. So I was trying to create a method to have them create their portfolio using Google Sites. So I created this digital medieval calligraphy and illumination tutorial. No, I did not. Okay. Okay. I did have it, but I replaced it with a different. This is Mercury retrograde, by the way. For those of you who are in. Okay, so moving right along, PGI capstone. If you're doing a research project and you want to highlight what you've done, create a business card, connect your digital portfolio webpage that you get from Google Sites with a QR code on the back of your card. Then if you go around the room or you want to share your information, you give your card to that person, they scan it, and then they log onto your portfolio, which is a really seamless process. It allows you to share information. You can update it all the time. So one of the things that I had to do for my college was create a capstone project, and I used, guess what? I used something that's from the Renaissance, the Northern Renaissance period. And this is what I call layers of, you're embedding layers of, my problem is I have, there. This is the Ugly Duchess. She's in the National Gallery in London, and she has an interesting story attached to her. And because she has a disease that creates this problem, that it was important to me to create a lesson that illustrated that sometimes art analysis can be cruel and doesn't involve inclusivity, and it's kind of cruel. It kind of gives you permission to be cruel in an analytical way. And I wanted to show them what the curator at the National Gallery in London said about her, which is really, I hope they never take it down because it's a really wonderful teaching tool for me. I don't think this presentation by a curator put on a country's website would happen in the US, but I could be wrong. But needless to say, it's a lesson that I created that teaches the teacher how to present this lesson and the things that go along with her. So for instance, I wanted to create question frames, and I used another tool, which is a Google Doc embedded in Google Sites. So here is, like, for instance, this particular one right here is my learning design blog, which has the lesson embedded inside of it and goes in. I don't know, you guys can probably see the bottom of it. You can teach a class in an SCA setting, have them scan the QR code if you have even your cell phone, and then along with you, if they have cell phone reception, they can follow along with you with the class. So this is really helpful. You might not always have the internet available to you. You can sometimes use this offline depending on whether or not your cell phone can handle it. So this is like me writing about her, discussion questions, prompt questions, and the history of this particular painting. And it's so fascinating, but this class is not about the Ugly Duchess. This class is about something else. Anyway, so you can see it allows you to create different Google sites. It allows you to create different tabs, set them up in different ways. It can be real. I will give you some good advice about creating websites, and that is keep it clean, visually clean, or you're going to have problems with people being overwhelmed with the images on the page. So last but not least, we already talked about this. This is another way to embed, there's like multiple layers, embed your projects into your digital portfolio. So if you have, now I do have to preface this by saying, Google has a blog spot. I use it, but be aware that at some point in time, if Google doesn't think this is a viable thing, and like Google Circle, what is the Google one that they got rid of and it was trying to be like Facebook?
Google Plus.
Yes, exactly. So that went away. And this platform, I've never had any problems or any word that they might get rid of it, because what I've done is I've put all my lessons on here. So for instance, I created a lesson for my students on mindfulness and calligraphy. It's got a whole bunch of calligraphy links on it. So if, for instance, if you have a project that you're making your own manuscript, or you want to do more research, or yada, 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 it has that there. Also, perhaps you want to do a research project and you want to do a presentation for ArtSci. So maybe you want to do a teaching presentation, or you want to do an actual portion of like the Garden of Earthly Delights. You could have an iPad on the table and it could open up to all of this information, or you could have a QR code on the table with your ArtSci project. So the teachers or the participants or the people at ArtSci could go through, scan the QR code, and then look at your project digitally with the moving parts that are added to it. What you've learned, what concepts and ideas that you're experimenting with, also your documentation that goes along with it. In this particular assignment, there is a really wonderful aspect to this. It is a moving parts of the Garden of Earthly Delights that actually was created, I think, at the anniversary of this particular piece. So I'm not going to go into it. It's amazing. You should check it out when you get this. There's also a Bosch VR app trailer that will heat up your phone like nobody's business, but you can use it on an iPad, and it'll allow you to go through heaven for free, but you have to pay to get into the earth and hell. So use that metaphor however you choose. I've done it with my students. So anyway, there you go. Elizabeth, the learning design, it's from Blogger. It's amazing. It's also very easy to use, and it's free. Bingo. So also we kind of go back to the concept of creating subject folders per project or per subject that you have. I don't know very many SCA people that just have one thing that they are focusing on, because we're all like, squirrels, like, oh my God, there's one thing, there's another thing. And I told myself, like, when I got to a certain age, unless you're a vampire and you live to be 1,000 years old, you're never going to do all the projects that you've collected books and materials for. So narrow it down and just be good at a few things rather than being mediocre, or, less than that, on 50 things, and I'm not exaggerating. Each folder can be labeled, and this is a way you can also share those folders with other people. For instance, if you're an apprentice and you want to share it with your Laurel, you could both collaboratively, they could see how you're building material, and they're not always asking you, hey, you worked on this thing or not? They can just look at the progress that you have in there. So I've thrown all these tools at you, and you're like, what's the deal here? What are the limits? What can we do with this? These are the limits on the number of synchronous collaborators, meaning synchronous, meaning on at one time, that you can have for each doc type. 10 people can edit a presentation, like the Google slide that we're currently on right now. 10 people can edit it at once. I don't suggest it because it's kind of crazy and it'll probably slow it down a lot, but you can do it. 50 people can edit a spreadsheet simultaneously. The good news about that is, for instance, if you're an autocrat and you need to arrange a lot of different movable parts, I think, didn't you guys use Thalassa, a sheet of some kind to do the classes for this class, for TRU?
Yes, Melisana does a lot of Google collaborative documents so that we could all do things together.
Perfect. You can always do project management. So let's just call running events, being a feastcrat, anything that creates a lot of movable parts as project management and people involved. So, and give yourself, oh, by the way, this is an aside, as a professor who also teaches students about career choices, the work you're doing in the SCA, running events, being a crat, being a seneschal, you're project managing it. Get credit for it. Look into the certification process to build a portfolio. It will make you far more lucrative, worth a lot in the job market. If you want more information on that, contact me. And then 50 people can edit a spreadsheet, 50 people can edit a document, meaning a Google Doc. The problem when you have more than one person on a Google Doc is the cursors will merge with each other and it looks like a hot mess. So what you need to do is you create cells. So for instance, if you created a table, you inserted a table inside the Google Doc, one person can be working on a table in their little table, another person can work on their little table. That way the cursors will stay separate from one another and they won't merge. And teachers go, I can't use this, it merges. And I'm like, wait, just wait. So there is a limit of 200 combined viewers and collaborators for all different doc types, which means that there have been times in the past where people have put a Google document out on the internet, like on Facebook or some other social media, and it crashed because too many people logged on and it went poof. And they'll do that because I think that rightfully so, I guess Google wants you to pay for the G Suite professional quality one if you get to the bigger numbers. So this is a Google Slide interactive site where you can pick out your templates. What I do suggest is, and I don't have this on here and I can add it later, is to use Slides Carnival, because I got this, I put in Italian Renaissance on Slides Carnival and this Da Vinci template showed up. There's a lot more choices, it's a lot more creative. Sometimes what Google offers is a little basic, but they're getting a little at it. Publish a presentation for protected sharing. So if you want to put something out there, you don't want other people to mess around with it, you want to put it on a website, Google site, that way nobody can remember to protect it so that people can't mess with it, or even comment if you don't want to know what they think. Because I don't know why, but there are so many
Isla, if you can hear me, you froze. We cannot hear you. Hopefully you can hear us.
I don't think she will. My computer freezes a lot, so.
Hope she remembers where she left off at. feel like I need hold music. Oh, and we lost her.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Christine. I'm going to do that. I'm going to find hold music.
You know, you can get that. You can actually download the Jeopardy. Da, 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 da.
Shouldn't it be something
Tempted to
you
play
read?
something since I'm sitting here noodling, but it's an instrument I don't really know how to play.
Have you seen the medieval versions of the like creep and pumped back kicks? Those are really funny.
Those are fantastic.
This is an
She's
awkward
coming back now.
conversation I've had with so many people because I do music primarily. Hi, I'm from Monstiora, by the way. And yeah, I'm like, okay, this would be great if I listened to modern music because I don't know any of these songs.
I love variation. I love this idea because it's so medieval in one way. It's like you have one song and you have 9 minstrels, and 9 minstrels do that one song a different way. And gosh knows the beginning of like the 1900s where you would have the famous people all do the same song. But I find it fun when it's a modern song because all of a sudden people are like, oh, it's medieval music. Oh, wait. That's
Yeah, it's a cute idea.
that's REM.
like the
What is REM doing in medieval music? Yeah, I don't know.
I like the concept, but I'm just literally not familiar with the tunes.
She's back, but she's on mute. Hold on, I'm unmuting you. I'm unmuting. Why can't unmute you? Why can't I unmute
Getting
you?
elevator music ready.
Isla, go ahead and unmute yourself. I can't.
I'm unmuted.
There you are.
Yeah.
Back you go.
Alrighty then. Okay.
Share your screen again.
I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to present and I'm going to go back. And I hope that other people aren't being as challenged as I am. But you guys are super awesome, and I guess poop happens. So I'm going back to where I was. Okay, so we already talked about collaborative documents, and I'm not going to add that as well. So adding a footnote, the concept of creating a footnote in either Google Docs, include a hashtag at the location, but when you print it out, it'll have everything according to the citation way you use it. If you put MLA or whatever, it's just the way Google shows you that there's a citation and a footnote available. I know that's a little complicated. There's a link here that discusses making the most of Google Docs, and I can testify to this. I've worked in multi-campus groups, like maybe 8 to 10 people, and we've done all of our project management on very complex, it's like their version of TRU, but bigger and far more professors. And we've done it all on Google Docs. So there are ways you can do it. You can keep minutes, you can keep track of the changes, you can embed information in it. So it's definitely a way that you can use that's free. I also incorporate Trello. I had it in here, but I didn't want to take you guys too far down that path. But Trello has a wonderful little addition added to it. For every person you invite, it'll add another month free for you. Use the premium version. You just invite a whole bunch of people and then you're like getting months and months of free Trello. Eventually they're going to expect you to pay for it, but it's extremely useful. Sometimes I think it's a little complex with the bells and whistles, and sometimes when you're using technology who are not familiar with it, it's sometimes better to keep it more simplistic and less distracting. I speak from experience. Google Forms. So for instance, at TRU, they want feedback on the various classes. They can send out a Google form to get information, to find out, did you like the class, or that Elizabeth person kept losing her connection? She needs to get a better carrier for her, internet service, which by the way we did, and it doesn't matter. Google Forms is a great way to get feedback from people. It also feeds into a Google Sheet that you press a button on the top of it, and it's a little kind of shape at the top right-hand corner that will also feed into a Google Sheet after you're done with the Google form for the user to use digital feedback on percentages about this many people thought this many people thought that. So you can have graphs to show the people that you're working with how well it was, or different things that you might want to think about doing, or data that you're actually researching. Okay, there's this Google Forms survey to gain feedback. We already just discussed that. Writing a letter or creating an art side project. I don't know how many of you have like, I know we have forms that you fill out in this kingdom to write a letter to the crown, which almost makes it too simplistic. As somebody who gives out awards someday, whenever I'm not princess, whenever this thing happens, it allows you to say to someone else, can you log on and can you take a look at what I've written? Maybe, just maybe, you're writing a letter about some strong feelings you have on something and you need someone else to look at it so that you can get feedback about whether or not you should actually send it. Sometimes that second or third person kind of helps you kind of a little more objectively. Just saying. Also, Google Scholar. Rather than just Googling something, if you use Google Scholar, it'll allow you to go into it and it'll take you through various journal articles, books, things that would be considered more academic in nature. For those of you who are connected to a college or a student or whatever, you can connect your Google Scholar to your university library and it will automatically allow you to use Google Scholar embedded into your library. So that's just another helpful thing. And for those of you who don't have a library, academic library to use, find a friend, make a friend. Okay, this is the coolest thing here for people who are doing art size. Curate your own collection of art. You can search museums around the world. If I could find how my cursor is working, here it is. You go curate a museum around the world so for instance, if I want to search for something, it also has an app that's really helpful. So I have a little bar here. So I'm going to take the class and move you to the left side. So let's just say I want to search for Da Vinci. And when I put him into the system, some really cool stuff happens. And the Leonardo da Vinci, they've created a little presentation for you from different museums or maybe a museum, but it'll help. All of this will pop up. And you can look through it. And one of the coolest things that I really love about Google Art and Culture is the next thing. So they took the concept of Google Maps and they put it on steroids when you think about art. And they took this ability to video, to take an image and they take it down to the smallest detail. Okay, so you're a seamstress and you're like, oh, look, it's this person. First of all, you like her and you're gonna wanna put her in your collection. So you can say, I would like to put this into my collection of 15th century art by Leonardo da Vinci or just 15th century Italian art. So I like her, she's amazing, and I wanna look at her and I wanna go, how was this particular thing made? You can keep going into the image. Actually, there's ways that, so if you keep pressing on it, you can see exactly what the garment would have looked like if that's what you want to reproduce or along those lines. So what you can also do is, like, for instance, if you're creating a collection, because you can create collections as you want in Google Art and Culture, different time periods, is maybe you're studying sleeves, Italian Renaissance sleeves. You can get as detailed as that. So you put the heart on it, and then when you get into your collection, you're going to go, okay, I want to do that. So we're leaving, we're going here. So favorites. So for instance, this is me, this is my gallery. Every time I've liked something, so mythology and art, medieval illumination, calligraphy, every time I see a piece of art I want to save, I click the heart and then it'll add it to, it'll dump it at the bottom and just kind of allow me to kind of add it to the collection. And you just, when you do that, this is how you do it. You press the plus sign and it'll bring up all the things that you've liked. And you're going to select the items that you want to put into your collection. There's an Italian Wren lady. There's another, she's early. But anyway, we're going to put that in there. So we've liked them, those two pieces. I'm just using this as an example. And if you get, all right, I'm going to move everybody to this side of the screen. So if you like it, you're going to call it Italian women. Let's just say Italian women paintings or something. Or if you want to give it a jazzier name, I don't know, research on Italian women. This is a description, and then you can put, like, perhaps you might want to write down the artists that you're previewing. You're going to, if you want to make this public and you want to embed it in your Google site, digital portfolio, public. If you're not ready to share it with anybody, so you do this. And remember, visible to anyone with that link. So you can embed this in your digital portfolio. You can put it on your web page. You can put it in your blog. You can put it on Facebook, whatever you want to do with it. But perhaps if you're not done with it yet, you could just make it private again. And then you could just keep it. So boom, I'm done. I have a gallery called Research on Italian Women. This is an art timeline project that I do with my students. I make them start from cave art and go all the way to today with a specific theme. The SCA is a little more compact than that, time-wise. And I like the mythology stuff because you're not just looking for paintings. You're going to have actual objects. You're going to have sculptures. You're even going to have opportunities to save pieces of architecture that they might have images of. So it's so helpful. Now, they used to have one where you could write a lot more on it, and I did one on horses through history, but I think probably too many teenage boys or girls or whatever probably wrote things on there that the museums felt were kind of not appropriate. So they took the ability to really comment too much on the images away. So you just have the image you can save, you can put it in your collection. It's still pretty cool. And when I get a little further, I'm gonna open up the floor to questions. I'm looking at time here, how much time? Okay, so in a few more minutes, I'm gonna stop. Oh, okay, Google Images. So if you type in Google Images, you go into Google Images and it'll say that, and then you're like, okay, I want a Google image of everything Mona Lisa. And what it'll do is, this came up to the Wikipedia page, but if you go to Google Images right here, and you click on it, there it is. It says Google Images, and you put in Da Vinci, any painting you want, but there you go. You have all the Da Vinci art. If it's on the Wikipedia page, 9 times out of 10, it is probably going to be in the public domain. Still be careful to cite the source. Don't just get all willy-nilly, because you don't want to, I mean, sometimes it's somebody's actual picture of the image that is actually copyright, or the intellectual property is not owned. So for instance, you say, oh, I love this picture. It's amazing. I want to save it. So it's from Britannica, and then you can put the link. You can put the link on social media. You can mark it. However, it sounds a little bit more complicated than just Googling it. But what it does is it narrows down the results, and it keeps like advertisements and stuff off of things. I think it's just a lot easier to do that. Like for instance, there's somebody took a picture of painting. I mean, that's not very helpful. So, okay, just an example. Google Public Data Explorer. I don't know why anybody would want to use this in the SCA, but I've been told that it's helpful that if you want to look up public data in any area that's listed in the public domain, this could be used for that. It's something that's just there. It's kind of cool. Google Fonts. Now, another thing, if you want to find a font and you want to use it on your website and you think that what you're using might be copyright, you don't want to infringe and perhaps be told that you should take it down or you've violated somebody's rights. These are all copyright free from Google. There's a whole ton of them, 333. I would guess there's probably even more of that than now. So you can put into the search area what you want. Like if you wanted something medieval, search. There you go. Almost before we knew it, we had left the ground. So there you go. It's a medieval style, sharp, easy. I think it's kind of easy to read. It's not as bad as some stuff. 818 fonts. Take it back. So that's there as a resource. Google Keep is my best friend. Google Keep, I hope my Google Keep doesn't come up because it's kind of weird. It looks like a rat's maze. Keep a Google Keep for work, keep a personal Google Keep, and you might want to keep a Google Keep under your SCA name in Gmail, because sometimes it's like if you see a website you want to save it to Google Keep, mark it. Some of the things that people do with Google Keep, I am fascinated with this stuff. Primarily is you can create drawings and notes. You can drag from Keep into Google Docs. You can save your Google Docs that way. You can also use Chrome extensions with Keep. One of the things that I love about Keep is you have location sharing. So if you share a Google Keep, like with your significant other, and you want them to go and by the pharmacy and pick something up for you, it will, with the location sharing, which I know it's creepy, Google following you around all day, but whatever, is you can have that reminder pop up that they are in the location of that particular place and that they want to go to the pharmacy and they're near it and go do it. And it's a really cool little trick. Sometimes this is, you know how when you go to an event and you're like, I just have my cell phone and I don't want to walk around all day with a pencil and a piece of paper. You can create between your Google Calendar, your Google Keep, a set of reminders that will tell you, I need to go to this meeting. And if you put it on the calendar, your meeting notes will pop up. Any presentation materials you have will pop up. It will be, and when you get to the proximity of where you need to go. Now, if you're at an event site, it's probably not going to be that detailed. But like, for instance, you're working around Gulf Wars and you know you need to go to the Art Sci Hall at a certain time. You need to kind of like coordinate your efforts. So each one of those things on your schedule, you can have everything lined up. That way you're not overwhelmed with the amount of things you have to do. Good stuff, fun to use. I've had it so that when I walked into the class in the morning, my presentation for the day would just pop up and that I could use my cell phone as a presentation tool on the screen to kind of like do the whole thing. And then I also had other layers like a Google form to find out how they feel today or what kind of things they want to tell me, to get feedback, those kind of things, believe it or not. And also one of the things that it does as well, I'm thinking of all the you can take voice recordings, you can write on a board and copy it, or if somebody else has written something, you can copy it and save it to the Google Keep. You just have to be good about creating labels so that you don't have 500 saved things. That's from experience. It's a hot mess if you let it. Someday when I'm on a deserted island that has internet installation, I'll just organize all this stuff. I don't know about anybody interested in astronomy as far as the medieval aspect of it or the Renaissance aspect of it goes. This is a good starting point because it'll connect you to all that Google Sky, and it's really cool. Check it out. It's fun. If It's fun. I've never really messed with it. Okay, you're in the back of the car and you don't have nobody cool to talk to, so you might want to do Google Easter eggs. This thing is a time sink, but if you want to distract your kids, it has like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's a whole thing about Google Easter eggs and secret tricks that you can do. You can make it's a good way to capture people's attention when you're doing a class and everybody's not paying attention to what you're doing. I teach millennials, okay? Millennials and Gen Z. I have to be entertaining or they're gone. Google technology is a universal practice for universal design. This is a good little article on a YouTube article thing on how to make your material accessible so that someone who has an e-reader or might need a little bit other accommodation to help them use these tools. So we remember to be inclusive when we present information. This is a dig deeper link, Google tools to fit your needs to kind of review everything again, Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, Keep, Voice, Draw, Expedition. I didn't talk about Expedition. Google Expedition is, it is a really cool tool in that it's VR. So you're happy to bring your life lessons. So if you want to actually physically go through the pyramids in Egypt, if you have a VR, you can. That's AR right there, augmented reality that they're using. Because it's like putting the dinosaur in the classroom. That's a whole nother discussion. So for instance, that's the AR too. They've changed a lot. They've added to it. This is something to keep an eye on because this is the Google Cardboard. I don't suggest that you ever get a Google Cardboard unless you're going to use it for just yourself. It's not easy to clean. It's pretty horrible. Just go get something a little bit more, user-friendly that you can clean out, that you can clean off, because other people are going to want to look in it, and then you don't want to put your nose where their nose was nowadays. Also, there's all these different museums, the Guggenheim. You can, there's castles you can walk through. Oh, I found one that had the prince that Richard II, who was put in the car park when they dug everybody up. Is it Richard II? Anyway, they had a whole forensic breakdown of innovative presentation. What was that? Somebody said something? They had a whole VR breakdown of Richard II's, how they dug the body up, they looked at the body, they used modern technology to ascertain what he was wearing, what he looked like. It's fascinating, especially when you think about the fact that, we're recreating a medieval king who had such an interesting history. So they're adding more and more things like that all the time. Keep your eye out. In fact, what I'm doing right now is probably just barely touching the iceberg. And I mean, there's tons and tons of other things. If you ever see me at an event and you want to talk about instructional design materials, technology, I know it's not medieval, but I don't care. It's cool. It's like a favorite topic of mine to make things easier in your life, to collect things in one place. I just remember when I joined the SCA pre-internet days, because I'm a dinosaur, that we used to have books and books that we hoarded like dragons, and then copies that we made of books that we couldn't afford or couldn't find. And it was just, things are different now. I think that the internet has been a wonderful tool for us to find things and to track them. Okay, so we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I'd like to open the floor to questions. So if anybody has a specific question about anything they like to share. Nobody has a question. Okay, fine.
There's a question down in the chat.
Oh, you unmute? Okay, question. Ask. Somebody talk.
This is Anija. I'm actually from North Shield, and I have research geek, and that is how I focus on 3, sometimes 4 different aspects, and they all are kind of confused. My primary one is slides of extant silks from museums that have free downloads, mostly the Met in New York, the V&A, and the Cleveland Museum. And I had this 800 slideshow up in a Dropbox, and I don't know how to share it in general. I am not certain what the best tool is.
That's a really good question. And as far as space is concerned, I think that Google Images, they have the photo sharing one that you could link to and you could put into separate files. If you have such an enormous file like that, that's a really good question. I think I would ask a librarian if I were you, and I can connect you with them. Well, unless you're a librarian in your life. But no, really, seriously, put it in the file. You get pretty generous space, data to use up. And just a little aside, you can have more than one Gmail site. Speaking from somebody so you want to have it under your SCA name, or perhaps you want to have it connected somehow to a specific topic. I know it's a lot of Gmail information to keep track of, but for stuff that's that big, you could use slides. There's a way to make Google Slides like what we're looking at, what I presented on today, to look like a book. You can reformat it, look like a manual, and what some people do is they reformat it into a manual that they could print out. So each page could have the image, then it could have a description of the image or the title, and then eventually, if you like, you could even embellish it so that it could be put into like a shareable publication. I wouldn't think at 800 pages they'd want to download it and use all that ink, but it's just it's something that I found out from Google that they use for their manuals.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your Highness, we also had Rayla said, when will this deck be made available?
I'm going to put it under, I'm going to give you the link for it. When will the what be available? This presentation be available?
Yeah.
Oh, as soon as you put the link up on the web page that it's connected to this class. And that's the other good thing though. So for instance, Thalassa puts up the link for this class and I want to add more to it. I just add it from my end. I don't have to download a PowerPoint and send her the new version. It will just continue to re-up itself automatically. So one time I taught a class like 60 professors and we had them do a very complex lesson plan on a Google Doc. And we did not tell them that it automatically saves and it doesn't have a save button. So she left it open all week long till the next class because she was afraid all the stuff she had done to it would disappear. So your stuff is automatically updating to the cloud. It's just being saved automatically. So I know I'm saying a lot of words redundantly, which is what I love about it because I've lost things. Okay, next question.
Nothing on Zoom?
Nope.
Anybody for the class?
Do you have an example of a project that you could go through?
The calligraphy one and that one I'll put a link up for because I think I doubled up on my link, and it's the calligraphy and illumination project that I put. It's a teaching research project that would be used for children. And then there was the one I did on the Ugly Duchess, which is in the National Gallery. Now, as far as any art side things are concerned, no, but if you go onto my Google blog, my blog site that is linked as well, you'll find different projects that I've worked on research-wise that may or may not be periods. Some of them are, depending, because I teach so many different time periods. I did one on armor. I did one on chivalry. So I'm trying to think of the period things. I got a lot of things from ancient Greece, Thalassa. I have a lot of stuff from Rome. And then as well, but you can see from my blog, if you go into the different pictures, you can see how you can present this information in a really interesting way that will catch people's eye. Because it's all about, you know, it's all about the delivery of the information that you've collected. You can have a giant portfolio filled with paper on a table and people would be like, meh. Or you could also have it in a very dynamic format so that people can go through it and they can look at it and they can dig deeper. And then you've really given them the impression that you really know an awful lot about what you've done research on, even if you knew just as much with a stack of paper that you slaved over for God knows how long. So this is a professor thing where we talk a lot and we don't shut up. So I'm gonna shut up again. So anyway.
So I'm looking at it from a Laurel standpoint of how does somebody upload their project, and their project is their stuff more than it is other people's pictures?
It depends on the format you're using. You can create video, and on YouTube, you can take, like with your cell phone, or if you have a better quality video, you can edit it in Screencastify, which is another tool that I can go into more detail about. It's not a Google tool, but you can use it for free, and you can edit it, and you can videotape yourself doing the art or the science. You can talk to the camera, and you can discuss the process. You can make it much more dynamic in that way, and then you can edit it down to make it viewable. Try not to make anything you do more than 8 to 10 minutes because people will get bored and wander away. So if you have something long, just cause it 1, 2, 3, divide it. So if you'd like, then you create those videos, upload it to YouTube, create a free YouTube channel. If you don't want the whole world mingling in your personal YouTube stuff, make it unlisted and then put your unlisted link on your Google site or your own website, or if you want to share it with the world on Facebook or any other area, so that
What was the tool you mentioned initially?
Screencastify. If you guys have questions, that I will add a Google Doc also at the very first page of this. And if you have specific questions for me, I'll answer them on the Google Docs. Like, what is that tool called? Screencastify. I'll put a link to Screencastify. It's really easy to use. It's free. The free version's pretty generous. And it'll allow you to edit your presentation, or it'll allow, within the context of your presentation, it'll also allow you to embed on, like, if you have a Google slide presentation, it'll allow you to embed YouTube videos in that. It's just another, there's so many layers. There's some stuff that you might actually have to talk to me about, and I can walk you through the process. I'm happy to do it. I'm a nerd. This is my job. I mean, it's a passion. Sorry, I know I'm talking too much, but.
Just to let you know that it's 10 o'clock.
It's 10 o'clock. You guys.
So sorry.
No, I'm good. I'm good. So I'll tell you what, I'll put up the Google Doc, ask questions. I'm happy to answer them. I hope you enjoyed today. I know we had some technology issues, but take care of yourselves and have fun.